Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Today we are discussing hyperautomation's impact on government IT modernization, presented by Vertisoft, Visagi, UiPath, Abby, and GSA. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box. This webinar will also be recorded. If you wish not to be recorded, we ask that you please log off and watch the recording at a later date. Thank you again for joining us today. And now, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Vertisoft CTO, Chet Hayes.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We've got a great panel and I think a great topic. So before we jump in, let's do a quick round of introductions. Again, my name is Chet Hayes. I am Vertisoft's Chief Technology Officer, and I'm going to turn it over. Samir, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. This is Samir Gulati. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Visagi. Delighted to join the panel today. Quick intro on Visagi. We're a leading provider of low-code process automation software that drives rapid process improvement, optimization, and transformation. Historically, our category has been called BPM, but increasingly now digital process automation. So we are a low-code digital process automation platform. Cloud native, we offer our solution in a PaaS environment. We have about 400 enterprise customers across the US, Latin America, and EMEA, and we help them build end-to-end process applications, which include both customer-facing and support services. Our key industries are manufacturing, retail, financial services, and public sector. And in fact, GSA is one of our key customers in the federal government, along with many state and local government agencies, including locally the state of Maryland. That's it for me.
Thanks, Samir. Bruce, let's head over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Bruce Orcutt, and I'm Senior Vice President of Product Marketing at Abby, responsible for the global go-to-market and strategy of our product lines. We're mainly focused on intelligent document processing and have been the leader and pretty much the founder of that market segment for over 30 years. And we also have expanded into now process mining and process intelligence, because we understand that every time we process a piece of content or a document for our customers, it usually relates to a much bigger and broader, more strategic end-to-end process. So having that insight and availability to understand content locked within the document payload is really important. And so we're really excited to be here and participate on this webinar.
Thanks, Bruce. Uma, go to you.
I'm Uma Natarajan. I'm the Global Vice President of Sales Engineering for UiPath. So UiPath is a low-code automation company. As Samir said, our customers are pretty much like, all the big verticals in the industry that you can think about, banking being one of them, public sector being a major portion of some of the work that we do. We have 100 plus public sector customers like around the US alone. That includes state and local government, the DoD, and a few other agencies. We also do a lot of public sector work in the EU and across the globe. So really excited to be here. For those who do not know about UiPath, UiPath is a low-code process automation company, but we do work beyond process automation. We do a lot around process mining, document understanding, and even a little bit of AI around the document understanding piece. So really excited to be here as well.
Thanks, Uma. And Anthony.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Cavallo. I am the director of the process optimization and intelligent automation team here at GSA. We're a team of developers, process optimization specialists, where we help GSA optimize as many business processes as possible. And in that optimization, if it needs an automation, we utilize several of the tools that my fellow panelists here are talking about to try to automate those processes as much as possible. So we've had this program here for a little over 5 years and growing every day.
Fantastic, and appreciate again everybody taking the time to join us. So today's topic: hyperautomation's impact on government IT modernization. We get asked quite a bit, what's hyperautomation? And from our perspective here at Vertisoft, in some of the projects that we have done, we have seen sort of this coming together of legacy tools like business process automation that's been around a while, with some newer tools around robotic process automation, and then the application of the machine learning and artificial intelligence on top of these things coming together to really create, that's the definition of really hyper automation tool set. Some of the stuff that we have done in conjunction with the US Army with unfunded, unmatched transactions has taken advantage of some of the technologies that we're going to talk about today, or that are on here today, and we have found that it has significant impact in an agency's ability to really move their agency forward in terms of their mission and some of the things that they're trying to do. It has big impact. And I think that as you hear some of the discussion today, I think you'll see that. But first, before we get into, I think, some great topics of discussion here, I'm going to turn the time over to Anthony. And Anthony's going to walk us through some of the great stuff that they've been doing at GSA. So Anthony, I'm going to turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chet, for the introduction and giving me the opportunity here to talk a little bit about GSA's kind of life cycle or project cycle here of getting into hyperautomation, intelligent automation. The slide I have up here is just kind of our journey from where we started off to where we're at today, kind of different phases. And it's pretty much, we went the crawl, walk, run. So about 5 years ago, back in February 2018, our CFO at the time, Robert Dork, kept hearing all about this what is RPA, automation, robotics, all going to different conferences and hearing some. And he came back and said, he came to us and said, well, I want to see if we can do RPA. So kind of set some aggressive goals, said, let's try to do an RPA here in 100 days. And we went out and talked to different vendors and brought someone in to kind of help us get our feet wet in it and work with our IT and security and different groups and start to set up an environment. We decided, we just kind of want to dabble, do a couple pilots and see, is this something we really want to do before investing a lot of money into an enterprise platform. At that same time, when we started off, we also reached out to our internal employees here. Our office is actually within the CFO's organization. We reached out to other CFO analysts, and we upskilled about 15 to 20 other financial analysts to learn these new low-code, no-code type software and get trained up. And then we utilize those individuals on a part-time basis to start building automations and building some of these pilot ideas that we had. Now, we just missed our 100-day mark. I think we got our first bot in. It was like 110, 115 days. We got our first bot in. But after that, we're like, yes, this is definitely something we want to do. Going into the next phase there, we started working closer with IT and security, building policies and procedures. We started looking into bringing an enterprise solution into our environment so we can then move to unattended automations, actual true robots, where we don't need the human interaction with a human hitting the start button, if you guys are familiar with the attended and unattended nomenclature. And then you can see there, a little bit after a year from our first automation going live, we're already up to 24 automations. And we're getting our enterprise platform set up and into that next phase there. We're 65 automations into, so that's 2 years from our first automation. We have our platform set up. We're starting to run unattended automations. In between this time too, we had a lot of questions. How do we get this set up? And we were talking with other agencies. We thought, well, I'm sure a lot of other agencies have this type of are looking for this type of information, asking the same questions we are. So decided to start a community of practice that was government wide. So we started the federal RPA community of practice, and we'll get to more. So I have another slide to get some more detail. But this community of practice helps agencies kind of get started, get out of that pilot stage, help answer the questions, or get over those same roadblocks that some of the earlier agencies that started these programs came across. As you can see there, once we are full-fledged, we have several automations, we're building unattended. So what's that next phase? Well, here, the hyperautomation or these intelligent automations. We started looking into other tools like the advanced OCR software that Abby has, introducing that document understanding, right? Being able to read documents where it's not a standard form. The data might be on page 15, it might be on page 1 or 3, it could be in a paragraph, it could be in a table. You don't know, it's not standard. So utilizing these intelligent advanced document understanding software with our RPA to grab that information, then take that information and be able to send it to where we need that information. Started doing a pilot on chatbots as well and other AI type tools. And that's where we're really full fledged into the hyperautomation now, and we're had over 120 automations now, where several of them are introducing these other technologies into the solution. And now we're looking at other things like the process mining. Hey, how can we use AI to help find these use cases or find issues in our systems to help try to optimize them as much as possible. We've been kind of able to do this. We really do work kind of like the private sector. Our model is very private sector-esque. We have a sales and marketing team that kind of goes out talking with the various organizations within GSA, helping them find potential use cases or ways to optimize their processes. We have a formal intake process. We fill out a form. It gets vetted through various senior leadership to determine, we don't just want to build an automation just for the sake of saying we're building automation. We want to make sure that automation is something good for GSA. We'll bring back a good investment back for GSA and help our organization. So we go through a formal intake and assessment process. Once that gets approved, it goes into our factories, we like to call it. It gets assigned developers and project managers, and we go through the documentation part. We start building the automation, doing internal testing. We do security approvals as well. All of our automations require kind of a mini ATO process. So we fill out all that documentation, work with a security team. And once security approves the automation, once the owners of the business owners of the use case, they like what they see in the testing, we then move into production, and our team monitors the automation and helps troubleshoot issues and doing O&M on those automations if need be, or if there's scope changes, enhancing the automation. I said our team is composed of about 10 individuals. We have process optimization experts. We have some Lean Six Sigma experts on our team to help out in that intake and process flow mapping part of the house. We have several developers, in-house developers. We have a couple contract developers as well, helping out with the day-to-day development and O&M needs. And you see there, we're really trying to see if we can optimize as many processes as possible for GSA and helping automate as much as we can. As I said, we are also we manage the federal community of practice, and there's over 1,500 members. Some of our future goals said we're trying to bring in some more of that process mining, task mining type AI software to help us find some more use cases. We'd like to be able to develop some more cross-government automations that maybe some of those smaller agencies that might not have the funding to build their own RPA programs. Maybe they can utilize some of those automations that cross government and be able to take advantage of those. And then a little bit more about our federal community of practice again. So we started this back in like 2019. Again, we had several questions ourselves as we were trying to stand up this program. We were reaching out to some other agencies that were doing it, and they had similar questions. We thought, well, many other agencies are probably having the same questions. Let's get everybody together and share our best practices and try to help each other get through these roadblocks. As you can see now, we have well over 1,500 individuals that have joined the community of practice. It spans over 100 different departments and agencies. Some of the key artifacts that have come out of this. One of the first things is the RPA playbook. That was a great product that got put out shortly after the community was created. And it's kind of a roadmap to help those agencies coming up, help them get through those roadblocks, answer some questions for them. It's not you need to do RPA this way. It's more of providing as much lessons learned that these earlier agencies came across to help agencies, because not every agency is the same. So we want to make sure that there were a lot of different paths that were in this playbook to help agencies out. The latest artifact we just came out, latest product, was our use case inventory. So we reached out to several of these different agencies within the COP and asked them to provide some of the use cases that they've been able to build automations on. And you can see there, last year we had about 900. So we've almost doubled. It was about just under 1,000 we had last year. Now we've almost doubled that use case inventory to a little over 1,800. So RPA is here in the government, and I think it's here to stay. There are a lot of use cases that are using automations right now. And back to you, Chet. Thank you very much for letting me talk about our program.
No, we appreciate it, and we appreciate the thought leadership and the great stuff that you guys are doing over there for the government. I think a lot of great lessons learned there. So I'm going to shift gears a minute, and let's bring in the rest of our panelists. I've got some questions for them. I'm going to let them all go first. And Anthony, I'm going to come back to you on this first one. You'll be the last one to answer this so that you can think about it from a government perspective. But one of the things I wanted to discuss are the trends and experiences that you guys are seeing from an industry perspective that you could apply, that the government can apply to help them be successful. So I'm just going to start out, Samir, interested in your take on this. Any thoughts on the trends and experiences that you can share?
Yeah, sure, Chet. Appreciate that. So, I'll just point out a couple of trends. One is the increased adoption of low-code technologies. I think with the advent of these low-code technologies, it's really becoming easier to adopt hyperautomation for a few reasons. You can deliver results quickly and prove the value of hyperautomation. You don't need specialized developers to build applications, as in the case of Bizaji. Process business analysts can really drive a lot of process improvement initiatives. And this is really a big deal because technical talent is getting more and more difficult to find. I was just looking at a Gartner report recently that said 70% of enterprise applications will use or embed low-code technologies by 2025, right? And so this is a big deal. If you cannot find technical talent and you need to modernize your application systems low-code technologies are a great way to get going. The other big trend is that end-to-end process automation is really key to improving customer service and efficiencies and reducing costs. And it's not just about automation. We believe it's really about transformation. And so, as we're getting into a tight economic environment globally, and including, spending both commercially and in the public sector, we believe that, getting end-to-end process visibility and helping transform your process, not just automate it, is really going to be important. And that's where we believe that while task automation can go deep, process automation really goes wide and can really facilitate that visibility and that transformation. So those are a couple of the trends I wanted to highlight.
Appreciate it, Samir. Bruce, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's funny, it's really an exciting time because in the private sector or in the public sector, citizens now have an expectation of now when they engage with these agencies, when they're applying for benefits, they're filling out forms, they're doing some level of onboarding for some benefit or some capability. So this expectation of now means that hyperautomation is absolutely critical for the agencies to be able to support those customers, be able to onboard them via the mobile channel or whatever channel they prefer, and give them real-time feedback as to what's the status of their enrollment, when will their benefit be available, that type of interaction. And so that real-time capability and the expectation of now of the citizens and customers and agencies is going to drive a lot of this automation push. And it's not one technology, unfortunately. It's a whole spectrum of technology. Thus the term hyperautomation, which encompasses 5-6 different core capabilities. But I do see that pressure of the citizens and the customers and the users driving an expectation of now, which is really forcing this digital transformation because they don't want to go to a building. They can't go to a building. They want to be able to submit this benefit immediately and get the benefit immediately. And so, that's putting pressure on these systems. Luckily, though, we see a lot of great improvement And the GSA examples by Anthony were wonderful, because we do see the government agencies responding. So it's a really interesting opportunity and great time.
Fantastic, thanks. And Uma, your thoughts?
I'm going to take it in a different direction a little bit. So if you look about the trends, right, like when RPA first came into the picture, like especially around digital transformation, like 4 or 5 years ago, it was a one-off solution for automating a front end, very minor process, more back office automation. But in the last 5 years, the trend has geared more towards automating the enterprise, being part of the C-suite priority, be it either if you take public sector, it's being tied to the mission. That's where public sector really drives the value and the ROI. So what I've seen in the last 2 3 years, especially because of the pandemic, it has really accelerated automation as a priority at the mission level. And that's not just when I talk about mission, it's not your one-off small automations that are copy and paste, connecting one process to the next. It's more it's much more transformative in the sense of driving value to your airmen, or your or to your field offices at the CBP. So it's actually driving value at the mission level, which has really accelerated not only the hyper automation trend, but also embedding AI and machine learning as part of that trend. So where do I see this trend moving forward? I see hyper automation becoming a staple in the government, but also embedding other technologies around machine learning and AI, and using hyper automation for migrations and really big level transformative initiatives that the government wants to do across the board. So I think that's where I see the entire trend moving forward, at least in the next 2 3 years.
Fantastic. So from an industry perspective, those are all great insights. So Anthony, coming back around to you from a government perspective, interested in your take on that.
I think this is great, and thank you for putting me last year, because I think I'm seeing every single one of them, of the fellow panelists said, I'm seeing it in the federal government right now, and not only with our team, what we're doing, but with other government agencies through the COP. Samir mentioned the no need for technical experts anymore, right? So bringing on the citizen developer term that we hear a lot out there, where anybody can kind of pick up the software and do the drag and drop, no code. I think that kind of correlates with Uma saying that, before there were a lot of kind of back end processes, move this to there, copy paste some of the simple. What I'm seeing is more of the citizen developers kind of doing more of those type, more simple type processes, back end process type things. And as we transition more into the hyper automation, that's where we're seeing some more, maybe someone with a little bit more skill sets, someone that's a little bit more program minded, scripting minded, taking advantage of these same software and bringing in the document understanding and moving that data from one place to another. And then introducing other AI models into it, and really, really taking advantage of all these 5 or 6 different tools to do that end-to-end processing. I think a lot of the automations within GSA are actually that way. It's we look at our use case inventory, we don't have too many where it's just going to one place, getting information, and then moving it somewhere else. A lot of our automations are end-to-end processes. They might be going to 2 or 3 different places and then moving the information to another place, taking that information, and then it needs to go somewhere else and hand it off to someone else, and then it waits for someone to do something. So there's a multi-step processes with our automations, rather than just kind of one little simple take information here and move it over there. So definitely seeing that trend into more of those end-to-end processes, rather than this kind of simple back-end type processes.
Oh, fantastic. All right, let's shift gears. I think that goes nicely into this next topic. And Anthony, I'm going to come right back to you from a government perspective. Like you're seeing a lot of agencies, interested in this. So what advice are you going to give these, other organizations when they're trying to decide, are we going to build it? We're going to buy it? Is there some combination? What should they be thinking about from an acquisition perspective as they go down and embark on these projects?
Well, I kind of before the acquisition, I think they just need to try it. Whether it's coming up with the use case, a pilot, and just do it, and see is it even something that they want to spend more funding in. You should be able to get a little bit of funding to bring in, test software, or work with different vendors, and kind of play around and see is this something that we really want to invest more. The whole, like I mentioned before, kind of how we started the crawl, walk, run. So I think that's definitely a good place to start. Find a senior executive that really truly is behind this, and let them help you pave that way into bringing that technology into your organization.
Fantastic. Uma, your thoughts. Obviously, UiPath is used quite heavily in a variety of different places across the government, and interested in your feedback on this from an industry perspective.
So I would say, like, when we started off, the crawl, walk, run is how we started off, right? Like, we actually had the software assessed by multiple agencies to really test out whether this was a technology that would work for them and whether it delivered the ROI that they were looking for. So I think, like, I would agree with Anthony that crawl, walk, run like worked really well when the technology was initially brought into an agency. But now with, like, with the proofs of, like, massive scale like automation and adoption that's happening across like agencies, now I would say the government is more thinking about having a programmatic approach to automation, having it as part of their budget, having it as part of their acquisition cycle, like really budgeting the money for appropriate, like, hyper automation programs and projects across their portfolio is, like, something that I would say, as like senior SES leaders and, like, CIOs of agencies, they are really, like, taking a very broad approach to having that as part of the budget. So once you have a budget, then it's all about, okay, do we want to build it ourselves? Like, do we build it using our own resources, or do we go and, like, work with like system integrators and have a combination of both to really deliver that automation at scale? So I would say, like, right now, if the acquisition process could be simplified, it's part of a budget cycle, there is a line item in the budget for automation, then I think we are golden. So I think that's where a lot of agencies are moving towards that. So I think, as long as they are moving in that direction, we are in a really good place in terms of delivering what, the ROI that agencies are looking for with hyper automation.
Fantastic. And Bruce, what are you guys seeing on your end?
Well, I really loved Anthony's vision on the community of practice. That really shows that people are talking, they're engaged, they're interacting, and they're really looking for best practices, right? Which is wonderful, because you also hear the data of the failed projects as well. We don't like to hear it, but they do occur. So I love that vision, because hyperautomation, like we said, is not one product. It's not one technology. It's a series of technologies that have to be orchestrated together to deliver this high value, high capability that we're looking to deliver. So I love the get help idea and that vision, but also it's, that networking is important, because many of the vendors that you'll engage with offer similar capabilities. Some are single, some are, a single technology stack. Others have multiple features in their products, and you need to know, when will one be successful for my use case, or should I be looking at best of breed? And I think that community of practice really will be helpful in helping agencies decide the right path forward, or de-risk their first steps of that path to make sure they have the best practice. Because in our world, reading a document is pretty easy, but you say it's a document, it's an invoice, it's a form. But when you get to the real business value, the real value of that process, that needs to be 100% accurate in real time. Can you deliver that for me right now? That's a different use case. So it's a interesting challenge, but I like the process in this, or the progress made in this community of practice. I think that's the right approach, because that networking and sharing of ideas and getting experts from other areas of the business or the agencies is really helpful.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bruce. And then Samir, your thoughts.
Yeah, so I generally agree with the panelists on this. I mean, I think the community of practice, we call it center of excellence, is key. But going back to the core of the question, we recommend a combo. Off the shelf applications like CRM, ERP, database technology, that's a build decision. That's an easy one. We think that for custom applications, which are very prevalent in both commercial and the private sector, sorry, both commercial and the public sector, you should use a combination. Use a low-code technology platform that can facilitate the building of applications quickly, so faster time to market to build, fosters collaboration between business and IT. Uh, and finally, and no matter how mature these markets are, rapid prototyping and proof of concepts, we see it all the time, right? And so if you can use technology to facilitate that rapid prototyping and proof of concept, then it's all goodness. So we think it's really a combination. Get some of the underlying technologies that are represented by the panelists here today, build quickly, deliver quickly, and then you will get sponsorship at senior levels to go wide across the organization. And so we think really a combination of build and then buy and then build on top of it is the right way to go.
Fantastic. Excellent insights. I appreciate all that. So that leads us, I guess, to that third topic, right? So now as an organization, they're getting started. They're starting to deploy these bots in their organization. This concept of management, and I'm going to use the term governance, comes into play. So, I'm interested in your guys' insights as customers start to do this. How are they going to manage, orchestrate? And it's not in here, but I'm going to throw this at you. I'm interested in if you might want to take a few minutes to talk about security, right, and how that happens in a bot from an agency perspective. And so let's start. Uma, I'm going to jump right into you. Start with you and get your thoughts on this from the management and your perspective on how they can roll this at scale.
So I'm going to start with the basics, right? Like when you think about security, there's like three things that you have to absolutely take into mind, like your credentialing, like how do you credential your software or your like end user. The other thing is how are you going to secure the code, how are you securing your platform, your code, and whatever is being developed. And then the third piece of it is like just identity management. How do you manage the identity of like thousands of bots that's in your network, and you don't want them to um, not be managed. So that's the premises of like security when I really think about like bots. And then like if you really think about how automation and bots are classified, like UiPath broadly terms it as attended and unattended automation. So I'll start with unattended automation. So one of the things that we've done, UiPath has done like really, really well, is that from the time we started working with public sector, we've taken a lot of feedback from some senior like security folks in the government in terms of how to secure these bots. So one of the things that we've done is we've done like hardware security modules that actually credential your bots using a secure vault. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is using soft certificates, ensuring that your certificate is valid. You do a handshake with your bot credential and like the software certificate to make sure it's valid, and then you make use of that automation. And then the other one is just your inherent security that's available in your desktops. As a credentialed end user, like your credential is like used to validate the bot and the usage of that particular bot. So whatever is applied to the user applies to the bot as well. So that's how we've really structured a framework for security across the management of the bots. And then the underlying piece of working with all the bots and your technology is to have really tight orchestration. Like one of the biggest core features of our product, and one of the reasons why UiPath has been able to get all our ATOs gets really high levels of security approvals is because of our orchestration piece. So really having tight security, credentialing, identity management, really allowing for parallel processing and queuing, and really making sure that the bots do not collide with each other while they're processing data has been some of the core tenets of like ensuring security with the bots. And as agencies further and further adopt, what we in UiPath think about is like mainly keeping that orchestration and the security posture really tight as we start like seeing this like really common across the board in every agency. So that's how I would say we've been like really good about having a very tight security posture and governance posture. And of course, COE plays a major role. One of the things that we talk about, and Anthony can definitely give some credence to this, is that when we've worked with GSA, we actually talked about multiple COE models that would work in the government depending on the government's and the agency's posture. Sometimes it's a federated approach, sometimes it's a centralized approach. Just ensuring that security is tight across whatever approaches that an agency wants to take has been the core tenet of really ensuring good deployments and security across every government agency that we've worked with so far.
Fantastic.
I hope that answers your question.
No, it's good. It's definitely good insight. Let's go, Samir. Your thoughts here as it relates to the management, orchestration, and the whole governance component here.
Yeah, sure. I think Uma's done a great job addressing security, so I'm not going to address that because I think we've definitely hit the nail on the head there. From our perspective, digital process automation technologies like the ones we bring to market, the platform we bring to market at Bizaji, are very good at orchestrating, processes across people, systems, applications, and bots, right? And so that whole orchestration and management piece is what process automation technologies like ours are really good at. We do this using rich forms, business rules, complex logic. All that can be very effectively orchestrated across all these systems. I'm going to give you a couple of examples that'll really bring it home, because in both these examples, we integrate very effectively with both UiPath and Abby. And so let me just try to simplify it for the audience of this webinar. So both of these are commercial examples, but can very easily be extended to the public sector or to the government. So one of them is a manufacturer and distributor of Pepsi products, one of our customers. And every time a new retail customer needs to be onboarded, they use the Bizaji platform to onboard this new retail customer that they're going to deliver Pepsi products to. So that process of onboarding is managed through Bizaji, but a number of updates have to be made to the SAP system as part of this onboarding process, and that is handled by UiPath. So we are involved in the onboarding, some of the system updates and the interactions with the core SAP system is handled by UiPath. We then handle the entire order management process. So now the retailer has been onboarded and now orders are coming in. So you got to process orders, you've got to fulfill them in the warehouses, you've got to dispatch the orders via trucks and rail. So that entire process is orchestrated by Bizaji. But there are a number of systems that have to be interacted with as part of this orchestration. They have to be updated. There's financial and billing systems. There is obviously the core ERP systems. That interaction is handled by UiPath. So we very effectively integrate together to automate this end-to-end process of not only onboarding, but order management. And I just wanted to give that, throw that example out. Another big global customer that I think all of us work with is DHL, right? As part of their core shipping and billing processes, it's UiPath, Abby, and Bizaji that all integrate together, and we are kind of the overall process orchestrator. But UiPath plays a very key role, and so does Abby. So I just wanted to throw those out as examples. I think when you apply these technologies to their core strengths, you get the most out of them. And I just wanted to, point that out, that very effective orchestration can be done in order to maximize the value coming, from each one of these core technologies.
All right, thank you, Bruce.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So a lot was covered. Uma did a great job. I agree with that on this, credentialing and security. From an Abby perspective, we're very much involved in the data because we're generating a lot of information, a lot of data from content that's coming from customers. So it's redaction, it's encryption, it's who can see what are the rules, and how do we trace that only those authorized and have access rights and permissions can see this information versus that information, yet use all the data that's available for analytics and AI and future model building and training. So it's really a interesting challenge when you break down the security, because when you go digital now, you have a lot of great automation benefits, but you have a lot of risk as well. So the security teams are very much involved in analyzing the processes, analyzing who has access, what information they can see, what they cannot see, but protecting all that data and ensuring end-to-end compliance and security. So that's super important to the customer base. And then a lot of agencies are now using process mining and task mining and those discovery tools to make sure that they're compliant, because everyone knows that what they drew up is what they drew up. But what happens in production when you have these great automation tools and you can do all kinds of great stuff? Do you really know what's happening, or do you know the path of each individual process or each individual engagement? Now you have the tools and technologies that can make that visible. So you can now extend or modify your bots or add new automation or new process skills to your capabilities based upon facts that you now have true visibility. So a lot of wonderful technologies happening where these all integrate together and work really well together. So it's really a great time to be able to automate and benefit customers with this great digital transformation capabilities.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Anthony, I wanted to give you the last word on this because you live this every day, right? You've got hundreds of bots that you're working with, or 100 plus bots that you talked about. So interested in your take and vision on from the governance, the management, the orchestration as the number of bots grows within an agency.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate, I agree with everything that everyone said before me. The security aspect, and the kind of talk about it. When you're talking federal government, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of security around bringing in new technologies and things like that. So if you're able to bring something in, it's pretty secure because it has to go through a lot of check boxes to ensure that you're covering all those security aspects. So it's pretty secure when you start building these automations in the environments. I think it's really key that when programs are starting, that they talk with their IT groups as soon as possible. Start that conversation early with security and the networking teams. As far as orchestrating, when you're starting to get into the 20, 30, 50, over 100 automations. I mentioned with UiPath, it's actually what we use in GSA, and the orchestration software makes it very easy to be able to manage, especially the unattended automations. We're talking the attended automations. It's really truly up to that human who's hitting the run button in their schedule, and you can manage what that human has access to versus the versions of the bot. But as far as the unattended, it's really good to have a good orchestration software to make sure that you're not running too many bots at once, and that your environment is able to handle that. Having a group that oversees that helps out a lot, and determining ahead of time, what that can be run at what times. I think also having kind of a center of excellence within a group helps manage when you start getting into the hyper automations of adding all these other systems. When you're talking citizen developers, it's okay. I use the RPA. They can work on those more simple processes. But when you start introducing the hyper automation and these other tools, I think it really is a good idea to kind of have some more advanced knowledge on these tools and able to link them all together and create those end-to-end processes. And then to mention with Bruce, I think what's even more secure now is with these newer technologies, with these new process mining, task mining, as you're building these automations, now you have these process mining tools where you can feed back the logs and find out, well, are our automations working the way we thought they're supposed to work? And it can kick out reports in ways that maybe you can tweak your automations this way and that way to make it even more efficient. Apply your service level agreements, your SLAs in there, and determine how well those automations are returning back on your investment. So I think that's key, introducing those other technologies to help even see if your automations are doing very well.
Fantastic. And I appreciate everybody's insight. We are getting close to time here, and I don't think we're going to have time for a lot of Q&A. So if there was any questions that did come in online, we will definitely make sure that we respond to you individually with an answer. And again, I wanted to thank our panelists, a great insight, and Anthony, your time from GSA. The GSA Center of Excellence, the resources, it's a great resource for people getting started, and I would highly recommend folks go check that out. And with that, Mary, I'm going to turn it back over to you to wrap us up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you being here today. If you have any questions or thoughts and would like to reach out to us, please email us at webinars@vertisoft.com, which is listed right here on the screen. And I just want to thank you all again for joining us today, and we can't wait to see you again next time. Thank you.